Went ahead and stuck the crank sprocket on. I'm going to stick the idler sprockets on that I've pre-lubed. Big sprocket facing out on the front. It says left bank front on the sprocket anyway. These bolts are 16 millimeter. Little sprockets facing out on the back or the right. Those torqued to 43 foot-pounds. This hole is a timing mark for this back chain. So the two collared links that are 10 links apart are up top here. And I'll bring this other collared link around to line up with that hole. I've already torqued the idler pulleys down to 43 foot-pounds. For verification, look through this hole and see this collared link. Just keep your finger on it. That collared link. Collared link to timing mark. Collared link to timing mark. And well, better fish this guide in first, then the tensioner arm. I put just a dab of blue Loctite on this tensioner arm. I went down, verified that I could see the collared link through that window. These tighten down to 18 foot-pounds. I just stuck a bolt underneath the back side of it to hold tension on the chain while I get the tensioner and the gasket ready. The old tensioner, and that's the position of the gasket. I've cleaned these tensioner bolt holes. I've installed the new gasket in the correct position. And I put just a little dab of Loctite on the bolts. These tighten down to 44 inch-pounds first, then 18 foot-pounds final. I put a little lubricant on the guides before installing them, just a thin layer of some thicker oil. I went in and installed the crank primary chain and line the marks up. There's 15 links either way, so it doesn't matter. Now this right rear head collar length's got to sit here in line with that hole on this mark, and the other two lengths sit on the marks I made up here. I put this upper guide in and it torqued 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to put the front lower guide in, it'll torque 18 foot-pounds. And I got to put the tensioner in, it'll torque 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to clean the holes, put a little Loctite on it too, and lube the pin, push pin. I got all the guides and the tensioner installed, but I had the best luck and this guide loose and that guide loose, and then installing the tensioner, the hydraulic tensioner in the arm, then tightening these up to 18 foot-pounds. All the timing marks are where they need to be. That chain must have really been stretched because it's moved the timing mark almost a tooth. And the cams are still right where they was. I got the rear chain installed. I rolled it around to the second stage just to verify timing marks. Seems relatively uneventful. Everything's torqued down, all the guides and tensioners to 18 foot-pounds. I just coated the chain with some of this like motor honey or oil stop burn to help it on its way for startup. Got the cover cleaned up, oil free, and took an air hose, blew out all the loose particles. I'm going to drive a new seal in here. And this takes 3mm bead of silicone down to this point, and it's 5mm. I think there's a seam in the block here and 5mm here and 5mm here and here. The rest 3mm, 5mm on around all the bolt holes here, around 5mm around this, and 5mm right through here, and then 3mm around these, this one and these two. Just a thin coating up here, nothing between. Oh, I'm gonna put some between there. Well, at least the hard part's done. Putting all that silicone on and getting that cover tightened down before it sets up. I used right stuff. It kind of sets up a little fast, but it seals real good. All the 13mm bolts are 14 pounds plus a 60-degree turn, and then the two little 10mm down there are 11 pounds. I installed the belt tensioner with the cover as part of the bolt torque pattern. Pretty much it starts with this bolt and the one below the water pump in a crisscross pattern, and then the second bolt up from the right would be 6, and then above the power steering pump 7, and then the bottom corner bolt would be like 8, and then up one on the bolt you did over here above the power steering pump, then back down to there, then here, then back down to there, then up here, and then so on. Just pretty much a crisscross pattern. About the most critical is to do the ones around the water pump first to get that seal flattened out on it. The rest of it, the silicone's going to go wherever it goes. Might have some impact on pushing out directional, some, but negligible. I've got the dampener stuck on, a new dampener bolt. It's a torque yield bolt. Supposed to remove the starter and stick a flywheel holder on there, but I'm going to stick a screwdriver in against the cover and catch one of the spokes and torque it to 74 foot-pounds, and then it has to be turned another 150 degrees, and I'll just put a mark on the bolt at 150 degrees, tighten it on down, just short of 180 degrees, exactly half. The crank bolt's installed. I just wedged a screwdriver in behind that spoke in that hole. We got it 74 foot-pounds. Put a mark at 150 degrees on the bolt and then on the dampener, and just use the impact to spin it to 150 degrees. It went pretty quick. I went ahead and installed this generator and idler pulley, and then the serpentine belt. Now install the actuators and cam sensors. The evap pump is bolted back into place. Got all the camshaft actuators and sensors back in the head, and put the water outlet back on. 2 new seals. And put the side engine mount back in place. Just need to bolt it down. Generator. Clean these surfaces off for the valve cover to lay on. It'll get a bead of silicone at each one of these cover to engine seams on both the front pieces, back, front to back. The covers, coils, and wire harnesses are back in place. And the engine mount bolts are tight. I put the crankcase vent back on the valve pin cover nipple. I've set the intake on the engine at an angle to hook the brake booster vacuum line up. And then the evap solenoid. It takes this kind of 2-stage looking bolt and the intake bolts torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. And then the power steering reservoir bracket and air bleed vent for the antifreeze will go through the power steering lines, snap back onto the water outlet nipple and reserve tank, and a 10mm bolt held it down on the intake plenum. Then plug the throttle body in, put the air cleaner back on it. These 18mm 3 engine mount bracket bolts torqued to 78 foot-pounds. These 3 bolts are 46 foot-pounds, and these are 74 foot-pounds. These 3. The antifreeze air bleed lines hooked back up. Air filters in. Mass airflow sensors plugged in. Now I just need to change the oil filter and fill it full of oil. Put the beauty cover back on the top of the motor. Fill it full antifreeze with the airlift system. Put oil in it. This requires 530 Dexos approved oil. So make sure whatever oil you get is Dexo certified. Capacity of the system's 5.5 quarts. And I usually put 5 in it and start it up and let it settle down and check it again. The antifreeze is Dexacool, and the capacity of the system's just under 10 quarts. So I figure there's a couple of quarts left in the block, maybe a half quart or a quart in the radiator. So mix up at least 8 quarts Dexacool antifreeze. I usually mix it a 60-40 mix around the northern areas here. It's pretty much back together. It's full of antifreeze and oil. I've left the inner fender out so I can check for leaks or any problems. Well, the noise from the chain tensioners being dry wasn't as loud as I thought it was going to be, but I can't complain. High pressure pump makes a weird noise. Good enough. The inner fender and the wheels back on it. It's ready to take it for a test drive.